officially open. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock.
Commissioner, thanks very much. We told you we'd have some booze for you. Zach Taylor is there looking to make his first selection. Duke Tobin also furiously working through what may be happening. Of course, you earned the top pick in the draft, and the Cincinnati Bengals, while they have had some playoff appearances over the last 10 to 15 years, have struggled. Fifth worst record in NFL history, 449 winning percentage. 20 seasons without a playoff win, the longest active streak in the NFL. And of course, this is the fourth number one pick in the last 30 seasons, which is tied for the most in the NFL over that time frame. And there is the man from Athens, Ohio, the Heisman Trophy winner, Joe Burrow, who is the presumptive, for the next few minutes anyway, the number one overall pick. So let's get to know Joe Burrow, the former LSU quarterback, and the high hopes he hopes to bring to the Cincinnati Bengals. He comes from a football family. They all went to Nebraska. Nebraska chose to not pick up on Joe Burrow, even after he was a 2014 Mr. Football out of Athens High School in southeast Ohio, and then, of course, went to Ohio State. At one point, he was considered to be the next Alex Smith, but never really got going. Then he transferred to LSU. His first season in 2018 was okay. 16 touchdowns, 5 picks. And then 2019 happened, and my God, he rolled in everything you possibly could. Single season records for total offensive yards, total touchdowns at 60, or total touchdown passes at 60, total touchdowns at 65, a national championship, and a Heisman Trophy as well. It's arguably the greatest season a college quarterback has ever had. They beat 7 top 10 teams and scored a record 726 points. So let's get to know Joe Burrow as best as we can. Mel, Cincinnati is here because last year wasn't great. They have had some success, but they need Joe Burrow to up the ante here.
Yeah, I'd like to dispel that myth that the Bengals are the worst place to go. Since 2003, when they drafted Carson Palmer, 6 10-win seasons. That's as many as the Cowboys had, more than the Chargers, the Giants, and the 49ers. Quarterbacks since 2003, basically Palmer and Dalton have thrown 414 touchdown passes. That's 13th in the NFL. Not the worst place to go. And for Joe Burrow, what impressed me the most was the big games. There were 5 opponents that finished in the top 10 when the season ended. Against those 5 opponents, Joe Burrow had 22 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. And when the pressure was on, he was always at his best.
He was absolutely Joe Cool. Daniel Jeremiah, when you see Joe Burrow, what's the first thing that stands out when you watch the tape?
Well, to me, it's just the poise that he plays with. I look at accuracy, poise, decision-making, playmaking, and Joe Burrow's off the charts in all 4 of those areas. The big leap took place from 18 to 19 because they got 5 guys out into the route, and that's where he was able to spread and shred every single defense he faced with LSU this fall.
Let's go to Kurt Warner next. Kurt, lots of quarterbacks have great stats, but you look for traits in college quarterbacks that can translate to the NFL. Yours certainly did. What are you looking at trait-wise that you like from Joe Burrow?
Well, you're right, Trey. There's not very many sure things at the quarterback position making that transition from college to pro. So what does translate? When you talk to players going from college to the NFL, the first thing they say is the speed of the game picks up. If you're looking at Joe Burrow, that was probably his greatest strength, was being able to process information, make good decisions, and get the ball out of his hands quickly. Also a very accurate quarterback, over 76% completion. That is something that also translates. A couple things I really like about Joe Burrow.
All right, Kurt, thanks very much. Let's go to our front office insider, Louis Riddick. Louis, it was your job to evaluate talent like Joe Burrow when you were working with Washington and Philadelphia. What did you learn about him through this process?
Look, Trey, he's a guy who can do many, many good things, and he's a very diverse quarterback as far as the kind of things that he can execute both inside the pocket and outside the pocket. Inside the pocket, we've already talked about the fact that he's one of those guys who can just move subtly, buy time, keep his eyes down the field, and throw the ball with accuracy. He can throw the ball outside the pocket on designed boots and rollouts and throw it with accuracy there. And then the number one thing really is this. He is very, very athletic, almost sneaky athletic, but people who watch him realize that this is a guy who can pick up first downs with his legs, so he can do it all. You can see why Cincinnati ultimately is going to pick him.
Listen, we've got all the physical traits. Michael Irvin, you talked about this earlier in our pregame show about above the shoulders. I want to read a quote to you about Joe Burrow, about trying to be a leader. He said, everyone has their own secret sauce. You can't steal someone else's. If Burger King tried to make cane sauce, it would be crap. Everyone has to have their own. You just have to find it. And he seems like he's found that sauce.
Just by sharing that right there with you tells you he understands he has to be himself in order to win that locker room. But he has those three things that as a young man, he's going in a grown man's locker room and trying to win that locker room. They want to know, your quarterback, can you score? You just talked about he had the touchdown record in the FBS. They want to know, can you win? They went 15-0 and he won the Heisman Trophy. And they want to know, can you lead? He led his team to a national championship. That should go a long way, Trey, when he walk in that Bengals locker room and try to ascend to the leader of that team, franchise, and community.
Michael, you're absolutely right. And Booger, you saw this unfold firsthand. I mean, let's be honest. When Joe went to Baton Rouge, skinny kid from Southeast Ohio, he was all the way an outsider. And by the end of this past college football season, he could not have been more a Bayou Bengal.
Well, Trey, he's got that it factor. You know, many have tried, but Joe was the only one to succeed, to come to Baton Rouge and to galvanize all the talent that LSU had down there. And his ability to walk in the huddle and have the other 10 guys look at him and know that we have a guy that has supreme confidence, not cockiness, but just confidence. And Trey, I'll tell you a story. We were walking to midfield for the national championship game. It was me and Joe side by side against Clemson. He simply looked at me and gave me a wink. He's confident, not cocky, and Cincinnati's going to love him up there.
Oh, you got to like that in your quarterback. A very, very cool story there, Booger. So he did win the Heisman Trophy in a landslide, most first-place votes, widest margin of victory we've ever seen. But during that time, when Joe was at the pinnacle of individual achievement, he took a pause in that Heisman Trophy speech and for about 30 seconds spoke about something that was very near and dear to his heart.
Coming from Southeast Ohio, it's a very